When I opened that suitcase, I swear my soul left my body for a second. It was soft, foam-like, a gentle curve, just like a second trimester belly. It had little straps, flesh-toned and worn, like someone had been putting it on every single day. I didn't touch it again after that. I just stood there, frozen. Like time had pressed pause right there in Lana's bedroom. It smelled like baby powder in that room. She'd been spraying it everywhere lately. I thought it was just her nesting instinct, trying to make things feel sweet and soft before the baby came. But now that smell felt like a lie. A fog covering something rotted underneath. I kept hearing her voice in my head over and over. The baby's kicking so much I can't sleep. I think he's going to have Marcus's nose. I hope he don't come early. I want everything to be perfect for the shower, and me, I'd believed every word. Before all that, we were just us. Lana and me, we grew up like twins, even though I was 5 years older. Our mama always said, "She's your shadow, now don't step on her heart." And I tried not to. I really did. I looked out for her like I was born to do it. Lana was the baby of the family. Pretty, dramatic, could cry on command if she needed to. When we were little, she'd fake a fever just to skip school, and Mama would swear she was burning up even when the thermometer said 98.6. Lana had that effect on people. She could make a lie feel like the truth if you loved her enough. And Lord, we loved her. I remember how she used to curl up next to me during storms. I'd rub her back and hum the tune Mama used to sing, "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." She'd fall asleep just like that, even at 13. She never really grew out of needing to be taken care of. So when she told us she was pregnant, it was like the heavens opened up. We were sitting at my kitchen table, late summer, sipping on peach sweet tea with the ceiling fan clicking overhead. She put her hand on her stomach, flat as a skillet at that point, and said, "I got something to tell you." "I'm gonna be a mama," I cried before she even finished the sentence. She'd been trying, for 2 years, maybe longer. With Marcus, her boyfriend since high school, off and on, mostly off lately. He'd always been more shadow than man, there when things were good, gone when they weren't. But when she told me he was sticking around this time, I wanted to believe it. We all did. Mama started crocheting booties the next day. Auntie Denise ordered a stroller from QVC. My husband grilled up ribs to celebrate the next man in the family. Even my teenage son, who barely speaks to anyone these days, put together a little mobile out of yarn and beads. It wasn't just Lana's joy. It was ours. It filled the cracks in our house, the quiet ones that life puts there when people stop calling, when husbands grow tired, when mamas forget things. Lana moved in with me around month 5. She said she needed help. The stairs at her apartment were too much, and she didn't feel safe with Marcus coming and going like he did. I didn't ask too many questions. I just cleared out the guest room, put lavender sheets on the bed, and told her, "You and baby stay as long as you want." And oh, how she played the part. She walked like her back ached. She rubbed her belly like it held the whole world. She moaned about pickles and ice cream and wouldn't touch anything with caffeine. I watched her waddle through the living room, hand on her lower back, talking to that belly like it could hear her. Every now and then, I thought I noticed something odd, like how her belly looked a little higher one day, a little lower the next, or how she never once let me feel the baby kick. But I brushed it off. She said it made her nervous, people touching her stomach. I respected that. I trusted her. She had sonogram pictures, too. Black and white blurs with little captions. Baby boy, 22 weeks. She never let me come to an appointment. Said the clinic didn't allow visitors due to COVID precautions. I didn't press. That's the thing about trust. You don't realize it's being used against you until it's too late. We spent the weeks leading up to the shower picking out decorations, folding little blue napkins, arguing over whether to serve lemonade or punch. She even had me create a registry online. Bottles, diapers, blankets, you name it. People were mailing her gifts from all over, Friends from high school, church folk, even Marcus's mama, who always swore Lana was too Hollywood for her boy, sent a box of hand-sewn bibs. The house looked like a baby store exploded in it. Diaper towers, balloon arches, a banner that said, "Oh, baby," in golden cursive. And through it all, she smiled. I'd never seen her glow like that. Then came the suitcase. 2 days before the shower, Lana said she wanted to pack up a few things to bring to her friend's place. Said they were doing a spa day to relax her before the big celebration. I offered to help. She hesitated, just for a second, but then she said yes. She was upstairs in the shower when I walked into her room. The sunlight through the blinds made stripes on the bedspread. I remember the smell. Baby lotion, something floral, and under that, something faintly sour, like plastic left in the sun. I pulled the pink suitcase from under her bed. It was heavier than it should have been. I unzipped it to check if she needed help rolling it, and there it was, flesh-toned, round, strapped. My mind couldn't process it right away. I blinked, closed it, opened it again, touched it with the back of my hand. It was warm, maybe from being worn, maybe from the sun. My heart started to beat fast. Not panic, not yet, just confusion. Then I saw the receipt, tucked inside the mesh pocket, from an online shop. Realistic maternity belly, medium size, $129.99. That's when the first crack formed. Not in the lie, but in me. I didn't even hear her come in behind me. Just felt the air shift, the warmth from the hallway. Then her voice. "What you doing in my stuff?" She said it light, like a joke, but I could hear the edge underneath. That old defensiveness, the same tone she used to use when Mama caught her sneaking out at night. I turned around, holding the suitcase handle, but keeping my body between her and what I'd seen. "You need help packing, don't you?" She looked at me, eyes flicking to the suitcase, and something cold passed over her face, just for a second. Then the smile came back. "Don't worry about it," she said. "I got it." But her hand moved fast, snatched the suitcase right out of mine, zipped it shut, and rolled it to the closet. No explanation, no eye contact, just done. I wanted to ask, right there, wanted to scream, "Why is there a fake belly in your bag?" But I didn't, because I was scared of the answer. Instead, I smiled, nodded, told her I'd go start lunch. Fried okra and catfish, her favorite. That whole day, I was walking through mud. I couldn't focus on anything, burned the fish, spilled the tea, forgot the cornbread in the oven. My mind kept going back to that belly, to the receipt, the straps, the weight of it. I started rewinding everything, every conversation, every little moment I'd shrugged off. How she always changed in the bathroom with the door locked, how she never let me do her laundry, how she never, not once, let us hear the baby's heartbeat. It was like watching a movie of your life, but realizing the whole time the camera had been pointed the other way. That night, I lay awake with my arm across my eyes, just breathing. My husband Darnell rolled over and mumbled, "You all right?" I didn't know how to answer that, because if I told him what I'd found, if I said it out loud, it would become real, and I wasn't ready for that. The next morning, I tried to act normal, made pancakes, sliced strawberries, smiled like everything was okay. But Lana, she was glowing, singing in the kitchen, twirling around with her belly, talking about how she wanted sunflowers for the centerpieces, said she couldn't wait for the bump pictures. I watched her fake waddle across the floor, her hand cupped under the foam. And I swear to you, I felt my heart ache in a way I didn't know it could. It wasn't just the lie. It was how much we'd all poured into it. The hope, the gifts, the prayers. I kept thinking about Mama sitting in her chair, knitting a baby blanket with her stiff hands, about the ladies at church who were baking lemon bars for the shower, about my own son who'd said, "Maybe I'll babysit sometime," even though he doesn't like nobody. We'd all been swept up in her joy. and now it felt like we were standing barefoot in glass. That afternoon, I couldn't hold it in any longer. Lana was in the living room folding little blue party bags when I sat down across from her. "Lana," I said, "I need to ask you something." She looked up, still smiling, eyes bright. I took a breath. "Are you really pregnant?" The smile faltered, just slightly, but enough. She laughed, short, sharp. "What kind of question is that?" "I found the belly," I said quietly, "in your suitcase." Her hands stilled. The bags fell from her lap. She didn't speak right away, didn't cry, didn't shout. She just stared at me like she was calculating something. Then she whispered, "It's not what you think. It's not what you think." That's what she said. Like there was a better version of this story. One where lying about a child growing inside you somehow made sense. Like maybe it was all a performance art piece or some strange therapy exercise. But there was no better version, only worse ones. I sat still. Let her talk. She took a deep breath and stared at the carpet. "I was going to tell you after the shower," she said, "after everything calmed down." I kept my voice low. "Tell me what?" "That I lost the baby," she whispered, "early on." My heart skipped. For a flicker of a moment, just one, I wanted to believe her, but I'd seen the receipt, and when I didn't say anything, she added, "I didn't want to disappoint everyone, especially Mama." I leaned forward. "Lana, you never were pregnant, were you?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then nodded. A single nod, the kind that breaks something between two people. She started talking fast then, like if she poured it all out quickly enough, maybe it wouldn't stick to the walls. She said she was broke. Marcus had left, again, this time for good. Said she was drowning in credit cards, behind on rent. She'd even borrowed money from Mama. Told her it was for prenatal vitamins and doctor bills. She looked up at me like a little girl caught stealing, her eyes wet but not quite crying. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said. "At first it was just a lie to Marcus, to keep him from leaving. But when Mama cried, and you hugged me and people started sending gifts," her voice cracked, "I felt loved. For the first time in a long time, my throat burned. You were always loved," I whispered. She shook her head. "Not like that. Not in the way people love pregnant women. People treat you like you matter when you're carrying something precious." I felt like the room was spinning, not because of the scam, not even because of the money, but because this was my sister, the same girl I used to share a bunk bed with, the same girl who'd once cried because she thought our dog could read her diary, and now she was sitting in front of me, confessing to a lie that had wrapped its arms around our whole family. "I was going to give the gifts back," she said, "eventually." "Eventually?" I asked. She didn't answer, and that's when I realized she wasn't done. "This shower," I said slowly, "it's not just a party, is it?" She looked down again. "Lana." Her hands were shaking now. "There's money from the registry, from the cash fund." I closed my eyes. "How much?" She didn't respond, just stared at the floor like it might swallow her whole. That was answer enough. The next hour was quiet. She stayed on the couch, curled in on herself. I sat at the kitchen table staring at a plate of untouched pancakes. Every now and then I'd glance at her. She looked small, not just in size, but in spirit, like a balloon that had finally deflated after floating too high on lies. I called Darnell that evening, told him everything. I needed someone to anchor me. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, "She can't go through with that shower." "I know." "You gonna cancel it?" "I don't know yet." And I didn't. Because canceling meant explaining, telling the truth, or lying even more. And either way, the damage was already done. That night, I knocked on Lana's door. She opened it slowly, still wearing her fake belly under her pajamas. That hurt worse than I can explain. "You need to take it off," I said. She hesitated. "You can't lie tomorrow," I added. Not in front of all those people. She finally nodded, and I turned away when she peeled it off. I couldn't bear to see it. In bed, I kept thinking, what would Mama say? What would the women at church think when they found out their casseroles were sent for a lie? But mostly, I kept thinking about the truth. The thing about the truth is, it doesn't wait. It doesn't soften just because we do. And by morning, I knew exactly what I had to do. The morning of the baby shower came with heavy clouds. It was early October, and the air outside smelled like leaves and damp soil. I stood on the porch, sipping coffee that had gone cold in my hand, watching as the wind pushed the banner we'd hung the day before. Welcome, baby James. There was no James. There never had been. Inside, Lana was silent. She moved through the house like a ghost, setting out deviled eggs, arranging napkins, fluffing her curls. She wasn't wearing the belly anymore, but she still walked like she had it on. Old habits die hard. I wanted to cancel the whole thing, call every single person and tell them, don't come. There's no baby. There never was. But that wasn't mine to say. Not fully. It was Lana's lie, and Lana's to undo. So I gave her one choice. You either tell the truth today, I said, or I will. She nodded once, not defiant, not broken, just hollow. People started arriving around noon. Auntie Denise brought chicken salad and coconut cupcakes. Mama wore her Sunday wig and bright pink lipstick, bouncing with excitement. The church ladies brought cards, casseroles, and that joyful noise that only women over 50 can carry. The living room was packed. Laughter, clinking glasses, scented candles. Someone put on a playlist of lullabies. And through it all, Lana smiled, like she was still playing a role she couldn't exit. I watched her open gifts, hold up tiny onesies, pose for pictures with friends. She was radiant and fragile, like a porcelain doll lit from within. I kept waiting for the moment, for her to stand up and tell the truth, but the moment never came. It was Mama who made it harder. She pulled Lana close during a toast and said, "My baby's gonna be a mama." I always knew she had it in her. Lana looked like she might break right there. But she didn't. She let Mama hold her, let the women cheer, let the lie stretch just a little longer. And that's when I realized she wasn't going to say anything. She couldn't. The shame was too big. The lie had grown too many branches. So I did it for her. I stood up, glass in hand, and cleared my throat. "I need to say something," I said. The room quieted. All those faces turned toward me, soft, smiling, expectant, and I told them, gently, clearly, honestly. "There's no baby," I said. Some gasped, some laughed, thinking I was joking, but I kept going. I told them the truth just like you'd rip off a bandage, fast but careful. "She's been struggling," I said, "more than we knew. And what she needs now isn't gifts or parties. It's grace." There was silence. Not the cold kind, the aching kind, the kind that fills a room when something real and hard is finally named. Lana didn't speak. She didn't run. She just sat there, hands in her lap, eyes fixed on the carpet. Mama stood up next. She didn't yell, didn't cry. She walked over to Lana, bent down, and took her face in both hands. "Oh, baby," she whispered. "You could have just told me." That broke her. Lana folded into Mama's chest and sobbed. Not quite tears, the kind that shake your whole body. Some folks left, some stayed. No one said anything cruel. They just shifted from joy to sorrow, from celebration to comfort. Later that night, after everyone was gone and the dishes were piled high, I found Lana sitting on the porch with a blanket around her shoulders. She looked at me with red eyes and said, "You hate me now, don't you?" "No," I said, "but I can't protect you from the fallout." "Not this time, I know." We sat in silence for a while. The wind was picking up and a few of the balloons had gotten tangled in the fence. She asked, "Do you think I'm broken?" And I said, "No, baby. But you need to stop breaking others to hold yourself together. She nodded, didn't argue, didn't cry again, just nodded. The days after the shower were quiet. Too quiet. Lana barely came out of her room. She'd go from the bed to the bathroom and back like she was sleepwalking. The house felt heavy, like all the laughter and music had been sucked out and replaced with cotton silence. The gifts sat unopened in a pile by the stairs. Some had notes taped to them, sweet things like, "You'll be a wonderful mom," or "Baby James is already so loved." She couldn't bring herself to throw them out, and I couldn't bring myself to touch them either. Mama called every day. Some days she was soft, asking Lana if she needed groceries, reminding her to drink water. Other days, she'd get short. "I raised you better," she said once, sharp like a slap. But even in her disappointment, Mama never hung up without saying, "I love you." And that meant something. Church folks, though, they weren't so kind. Word spread like spilled milk. Sister Green from the choir stopped replying to Lana's messages. The deacon's wife, who had once offered to babysit any time, blocked her on Facebook. The casserole brigade disappeared like fog in the sun. People were embarrassed, and folks around here don't like being tricked, especially not in public. Lana became that girl, the one who faked a baby for money, a story told in whispers across pews and porches. I tried to shield her as much as I could, but there's only so much you can do for someone after the curtain falls. A week after the shower, we sat in the living room. No TV, just her rubbing her fingers together like she was trying to erase something. "I didn't expect it to feel this bad," she said. I didn't say anything. I thought once I told the truth, I'd feel free. But I just feel empty. "Truth don't always feel good at first," I said. "Sometimes it burns before it heals." She looked at me, her face pale and puffy. "Do you think I can fix this?" And I told her the truth, the kind that matters. Not all at once, but one step at a time. The first step was calling everyone who had sent money. We made a list, over 30 names. She started with the women at church. She called each one personally. No texts, no shortcuts. Apologized. Promised to return what she could. Some forgave her on the spot. Others didn't pick up. She sold her car to cover the biggest payments, took on weekend shifts at a diner down on Highway 60, packed orders, wiped tables, smiled at strangers who probably recognized her from the gossip. Darnell helped her set up a repayment spreadsheet, said it'd take her about 7 months if she kept at it steady. She agreed. No complaints, just quiet commitment. I'll never forget the day she went to return the stroller to Auntie Denise. We stood in the hallway for almost 10 minutes before she knocked. Auntie opened the door with arms crossed. No hug, no smile. Lana stood there, holding the receipt and the stroller handle. "I'm sorry," she said. "You trusted me, and I betrayed that." Auntie didn't speak for a while, just stared. Then she sighed and took the stroller. "Don't do it again," she said. "Fool me once, I blame you. Fool me twice, I blame me." And that was that. Not warm, not cruel, just truth. The last person she reached out to was Marcus, the so-called father. She texted him, "I lied. There's no baby. I needed help, and I didn't know how to ask for it." He never replied, and I think that was a gift. Because if he had, she might have gotten pulled back into that same old cycle. Promises and disappearances, love and neglect. Sometimes silence is the cleanest kind of closure. By late winter, things started to shift. Lana had lost weight. Her face looked sharper, her eyes clearer. She laughed again, not often, but sometimes. And I noticed something small one evening while folding laundry. She was humming. Same song Mama used to sing during storms. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." But there was no baby. Just the echo of what could have been and the hope for something better. Spring came slow that year, the kind of spring that tiptoes in, a bloom here, a breeze there. The sun started rising earlier, and with it, Lana. She'd wake before me some days, make coffee, quiet her steps like a guest instead of a sister. But it wasn't guilt anymore. It was humility. She knew she had work to do, and she was doing it. By then, most of the money had been repaid. She'd mailed back unopened gifts. She even wrote thank you notes, not for the baby, but for the grace people gave her in spite of the lie. One of those notes found its way to the church bulletin board. Pinned between announcements for the bake sale and choir practice was a card in Lana's handwriting. To anyone I hurt with my actions, I understand if you can't forgive me yet. I'm not asking for that. Just asking you to know I'm trying. I see what I did, and I'm sorry it stayed up for 3 weeks. Then it disappeared. No one said a word, but the next Sunday, the pastor nodded at her from the pulpit. That was all, not absolution, but maybe an invitation. Mama took longer. She still called every week, still asked about Lana's job, her meals, her rent, but she never brought up the lie. It sat between them like an old family photograph no one wanted to look at, until one day, when Mama showed up unannounced, holding a pot of chicken and dumplings like peace in a bowl. "I made too much," she said, walking into the kitchen without waiting for permission. "Figured you could use a hot meal." Lana didn't say anything at first, just stood there, barefoot, her apron dusted with flour from whatever she'd been baking. Mama set the pot down, took off her gloves, and looked Lana in the eye. "I was embarrassed," she said, "at first. But not because of what you did." Lana blinked, confused. "I was embarrassed because I didn't see it. I'm your mama. I'm supposed to know when my child is drowning." That's when the tears came. Slow, steady, not loud. They sat together at the table and ate, and I swear I could feel the air shift. Like forgiveness had quietly taken a seat beside them. The neighborhood softened too. People stopped whispering when we walked into the grocery store. The mailman waved again. Sister Green even nodded during choir practice one Sunday, her voice finding Lana's in the harmony like nothing had ever happened. It wasn't that folks forgot, but they saw her doing the work. That mattered. In a town like ours, redemption doesn't come through grand gestures. It comes in casserole returns, handshake hesitations that turn into hugs, and awkward silence that becomes small talk again. Then came the hardest part, the part she chose on her own. She started volunteering at a crisis center for women, the kind of place that helps folks caught in hard places, with nowhere to go and too much shame to speak it. I asked her why. She said, "Because I want to be the kind of woman I pretended to be." That stayed with me, because that's what growth really is, isn't it? Becoming the truth instead of performing it. One night, a few months later, we sat on the porch again. Same place, same creaky swing. The air smelled like honeysuckle and charcoal. Someone nearby was barbecuing. Lana held a mug of tea between her hands, staring out into the yard. "You know what I miss most?" she said. I looked over. What? The feeling of being loved like that, all at once, all eyes on me. People excited every time I walked into a room. She paused. Even if it was fake, it felt warm. I nodded. Of course it did. She sighed. But now? Now it feels better when someone smiles at me and means it. I reached over, placed my hand on hers. That's the real kind, I said. By the time summer bloomed, things weren't perfect, but they were real. And real, I've learned, is better than perfect every time. Lana had moved out by then, into a little one-bedroom not too far from mine. It wasn't much, just enough for her and a few houseplants she'd started babying the way she used to talk to her pretend bump. She didn't go back to pretending, not once. No more lies, no more foam bellies. Just her, showing up, every day, trying. That's a kind of motherhood too, if you ask me. The kind where you learn to mother your own broken parts. One Saturday, I stopped by her place with banana pudding and folding chairs. We sat outside, bare feet in the grass, music playing low on her little Bluetooth speaker. She told me about a woman at the crisis center, 19, scared, pregnant for real. She asked if I had kids, Lana said, stirring her iced tea. What did you say? I said no. Not yet. But I know how it feels to want to matter that bad. I looked at her then. The way her eyes didn't drop. The way her hands didn't fidget. She'd said it plain, no lie behind it. That's growth. By then she was writing again, journaling mostly, trying to untangle the roots of how it all happened, why the lie had bloomed so big inside her. I think I just wanted to be loved without earning it, she told me one day. You already were, I said. I know. But I didn't feel it, not all the way. The funny thing is, after the lie came out, some people loved her more, not because they liked what she did, but because they saw the mess, the damage, and still chose to stay close. That's real love, not the party balloons and registries, not the praise and spotlight. Real love is what stays when the truth sits ugly in the middle of the room and no one runs. Mama eventually invited her over for Sunday dinner again. She didn't make a big speech, just said, "Fried chicken's on. Bring Tupperware." When Lana walked through that front door, Mama didn't flinch. She passed her the coleslaw like nothing had ever happened. And maybe in her own quiet way, that was her way of saying, "You still my baby, lie or no lie." The town moved on too, slowly, like ice melting in April. There's always going to be whispers, but they got quieter. And one day at the farmer's market, someone asked Lana for advice on bottle warmers, like they'd forgotten or forgiven, or maybe both. Lana just smiled and said, "Start with one. You don't need 5. And me, I forgave her. Not all at once, but piece by piece, because I realized something. She hadn't just lied to me, she'd lied to herself. Built a whole world in her head to escape how small she felt in this one. And once that world crumbled, she didn't hide. She stepped into the rubble, picked up the bricks, started building something honest, not perfect, but true. And that takes more strength than most folks ever find. I still think about that suitcase sometimes, how quiet it sat in her closet, how heavy the air felt after I opened it. We carry things, don't we? Some of us carry grief, others carry guilt, some carry lies, hoping if we hold them tight enough, they'll turn into truth. But the weight of pretending is heavier than the weight of being seen. That's what Lana taught me, and maybe what this whole season taught all of us. Love isn't earned by performance, and family, real family, will show up even when the curtain falls, especially then. If you're listening to this and carrying something heavy, something hidden, I want you to ask yourself, what would happen if you put it down? If you told the truth, not the polished version, but the messy one? Would the world end? Or would the people who matter most finally get to love you for who you really are? That's what Lana found, and it didn't come easy. But it came honestly, and sometimes that's the only road back home. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it touched your heart, I hope you'll share it. Or tell me your story in the comments. Would you have done what I did, or something different? Tell me below. I'll be reading. And if you haven't already, subscribe, support. Stay a while. We've always got room at this table.